Welcome back to the Show Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale, and this is Point of Impact. Today is just you and me. No guests. Just me sharing a few of my thoughts on a certain perspective, a certain topic. And when I started this show about a year ago, it was just me. I didn't have any guests yet. And I shared some of my perspectives, some of my experiences. The intention for the podcast in general was to do both. Monologue, me just sharing some of my experiences and some of my perspectives. And then episodes as well of guests with their information, their knowledge, and some actionable content from them as well. So we all learn together. However, I quickly ran into a routine around getting the best guests, preparing for them, and making sure that my interviews were the best they could be. And of course, there's the learning process that comes with that. But what didn't happen was these solo episodes. So today is a bit of an announcement, a change in routine. While I'll still be bringing you excellent guests, I'm also going to be bringing you more content coming from just me. My perspectives and my thoughts on certain things, mindset, action items, habits, and all sorts of perspectives. Today, in particular, I want to ask you a question that was asked of me recently. And that was, why is it that so many people never reach their true potential? Now, I have a thought or two on the definition of true potential when it comes to people. And my belief is that when you are consistently, you're continuously growing, learning, getting stronger, building that network of people, building a fitter mind and body, growing in experience as well, is that when you're constantly growing in general, so does your potential. It grows with you. So if you're doing it right, you can never reach your true potential. And then I think a better question is, why do so many people not reach the goals or that potential they know they can reach now? Why don't people achieve the success they set out for themselves? Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. One in particular I want to talk to you about today, and that's pacing yourself. And we set these goals, we set these lofty aspirations that we know we can achieve, but we don't take the focused, intentional actions instead of that we can set a schedule around and make consistent over time. Instead, we let the day-to-day busyness, the whirlwind of distractions, family, work, chores. There's a lot of stuff that does need attention, but it takes away from your time and energy in achieving the goals, the aspirations, the success you want for yourself. So the answer is pace. At least in part, is pacing yourself, setting that focused, intentional, and consistent action towards a goal. And there's, have you ever heard, I'm sure you've heard the saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And a great example of this is, in fact, my first marathon. I I practiced, I trained, I had a good team getting me ready. But then when it came to actual race day, instead of pacing myself literally, you know, the right speed over the right amount of time, right distance, instead I threw out my pace plan, my nutritional plan, my hydration plan, and I just went for it because I was feeling excited. I was feeling good. And I made it about 26 miles, but it was that last point two, maybe less than a quarter mile from the finish. It was when catastrophe struck. That's when I crashed hard. In fact, I crashed so hard that I woke up in the hospital ER. And I was so out of it that I couldn't remember my middle name, my social security number. I'd even forgotten that I was blind. I mean, imagine for a moment learning that you're going to be blind for the rest of your life twice. Anyways, that's a bit of a tangent. The example, though, is being, pacing yourself. You've got a long road ahead to reach something great, something that maybe you've never achieved before, but you know it's reachable. There's a terrific book by Greg McKeown. It's called Effortless. Make easy to do what matters most. And he dedicates a whole chapter to pace. And the story in his chapter, I want to tell you also, is about another race. And he starts off the chapter, though, with a saying that was very familiar to me. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And of course, that jumped off the pages, so to speak, right at me, because that's also a mantra just pounded into us in the military. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Great example of this in the military is basic rifleman, basic marksmanship, rifle skills. And if you've never picked up a firearm in your life, but you want to become an accurate marksman, it starts very slow. You gotta learn how the machine works, the firearm works. You learn how to handle it, how to break it down, put it back together, clean it, all of these things. Then you go out to the range. You load it. You learn about body position, breathing, getting the right sight picture, how to align the sights with the target, and breathing, and then trigger squeeze. All of these things, proper marksmanship skills. Then, one at a time, you send a round downrange at a paper target. After a while, you go down there, you learn where your rounds landed. You make adjustments to the sight or your position, your breathing, all that, and you do it again over and over and over. Slowly, but over time, you get better. And then as you get better, going through that checklist of body position, trigger squeeze, sight picture, breathing, all those things, the checklist, you get through the checklist faster and faster until it just becomes second nature, habit. You don't even think about it. It just happens and you get faster. And before long, and over time, but it seems quick, you become a better marksman. It just takes the consistent, focused attack, intentional action. So the story, McKeown, it says, and tells in the book, is about another race. About 100 years ago, a little more than 100 years ago, about two teams of explorers racing to be the first and the first humans to ever reach the South Pole. It's never been done before. One team was led by Roald Amundsen from Norway, and the other team led by was it Robert Falcon Scott from England. Both were very experienced explorers with expert teams, and both well provisioned under the same conditions at the same time. In fact, they met briefly at their base camps before starting. So how is it that one team went down in history and one team never made it back? Well, there are plenty of variables at play there as well, plenty of explanations. But one major difference was in how they traveled, how they attacked their goal of reaching the South Pole. The Scott expedition, they would, hunker down during bad weather. When there were terrible blizzards, bad wind, nasty storms, they would hunker down. They would they would conserve their energy. They would rest and prepare. And then when weather cleared, they would push, and they would push really hard. Scott would push his team almost to the brink of utter exhaustion. Whereas Amundsen, he was dedicated to 15 miles of travel every single day, no matter what the weather conditions were. He paced himself. He set the pace of 15 miles every single day across Antarctic. So, in fact, I think it was December 11th, 1912, he was about 45 miles from the South Pole. In fact, he was already further than any humans have ever been in history. And in one good, strong push, he could have made it in a single day. In fact, the conditions were perfect for travel. And how long did it take him? 3 more days. And they made it to the South Pole in 3 days. They celebrated and planted the Norwegian flags, and they returned back to their base camp the way that they came. 34 days later, Scott and his team, utterly exhausted, learned the bad news when they too reached the South Pole in second place. Then they turned around and they started back, and somewhere along the way froze to death from maybe a mix of exhaustion, emaciation, and a little bit of heartbreak. Who knows? But the point being is that if you want to achieve incredible, if you want to achieve something incredible, you want to achieve great things, you want to get whatever that success is for you, pace yourself. What we do is when we have a little bit of time, and have you ever done this? Because we get carried away with the day-to-day whirlwind, and we're caught up with the distractions. Finally, we find a little free time, whatever that is, to focus on our goals. What we do is, like Scott, we push and we push and we push. We work so hard that we just exhaust ourselves and roll up our sleeves, and we take full advantage of the time we have. And sometimes that means we go way too far to the point of exhaustion and collapse, to the point of failure. And I remember after failing to finish my first marathon, I didn't even want to run again. I didn't, much less another marathon. it actually it steals you of the passion of that first drove you to, still, guided you towards the goal in the first place. So what I would recommend, and what McKeown recommends in the book, to pace yourself. Set a goal for how far you want to get, how much work you want to achieve, whatever that might be. If you want to write a book, if that's your goal, then you should be writing 500 or 750 or 1,000 words, whatever that might be, whatever your right pace is, every single day. If you want to, build a house, you do a little work every single day. If you want to grow that uh, uh, emergency savings account, you set up automatic deposits that are put in there weekly or every 2 weeks or every month. You set up automatic allotments to that account, and it will over time build up to a book, a house, a savings account. That's how these great things are accomplished, bit by bit. In 2023, I ran the Badwater 135 miles across Death Valley and over 3 mountain ranges. At one point, that was not just impossible, but utterly unthinkable. Just years before, I couldn't even have imagined doing something like that. But I got prepared. I became more experienced in running and ran longer and longer uh, uh, races. I grew my potential to create this reality. I built up my capacity for running something like Badwater. I put together an incredible team, a world-class team of experts to help me get there. And then we set a pace plan, completing the race, and completed it. 2 hours is a little bit over 18 minutes per. That is a snail's pace. That's the idle stroll if you're going 1 mile. Of course, there's rest breaks, or changing socks and shoes, even putting, more, eating something, taking even a couple naps here and there, but also running and walking. All that combined, it added up to about 18 miles, 18 minutes every mile. And so long as we stuck to that breakdown of walking and running and maintaining somewhere around 18 minutes per mile, we finished in 42 hours the entire 135 miles. And that became the very first blind deaf person to ever do so. If you want to run your first marathon or write that book or become an investor, start a business, you want to build more relations with, deeper relationships with more friends, you want to get more deals, make more sales, whatever it is, you need to go through the steps, but you don't overdo it. Set a range, a target range for what you want to accomplish. If it's like writing the book, 500 words a day. Once you write 500 words, set it down. Go to something else. Don't overdo it. Maybe you feel good. And like I said, it's a range. Maybe you get in 500, maybe you get in 600, but don't try to write the whole book in one setting. Because what will happen is that burnout. All it takes for you to accomplish something absolutely incredible is that focused, intentional, and consistent action. And that's all I've got for you today. If you wouldn't mind, though, if you get value out of today's podcast and the other episodes, please do me a favor. Leave it 5 stars. Leave a review, comment, and a thumbs up on YouTube. It would help me out and help the show out greatly. And most people don't realize how effective it is in getting that out to a broader audience. So if you think this show might benefit others, please take a very short moment to leave those 5 stars. It's huge. Also, just remember to pace yourself. Set those goals, attack it with continued disciplined action, and you will accomplish something you may not have thought you were capable of in the past. You'll grow your potential, and the sky's the limit. So until next time, go out there and make an impact.